Welcome to the Upshot Interview Series. This is episode number 18, and we are going to be talking with James Conrad. Of course, the 2021 World Champion, the Holy Shot. How can you forget? You can't forget because DGN won't let you forget. But always great to catch up with James. Just one of the most kind and just down-to-earth people on tour, I think. And we get an opportunity, Josh, to talk with him about the shot and everything that's come since then, and getting written about in the Wall Street Journal and a whole bunch more. It's always great to catch up with James.
It's interesting because I feel like the storylines surrounding James are ever evolving, right? He signs with MVP. We talked to him about that. You find out about his new sponsor, but then with the Holy Shot and just the continuation of disc golf, the way that sponsorship looks obviously has to change. The Holy Shot, an incredible story, but the way that it's continually talked about and used in media, and then the Wall Street Journal article means that story has changed and evolved. So it's interesting to get to ask him about similar subjects, but with just completely new perspectives. And hindsight definitely changes the picture a little bit. And as disc golf continues to grow, you can tell that James is one of those really riding that wave of growth. And it's something really interesting to talk to him about.
I mean, what I love about James Conrad, his game, is it's he'll go months where you're like, oh yeah, James Conrad, he's good player, great putter. Oh, that was sweet, right? He threw an ace. That was really cool, very cool. But he's not really up at the top of the leaderboard. You're not like, oh, he might win it this weekend. And then it's like, oh, it's USDGC, and he doesn't have a forehand, and he doesn't care. And oh, it's Worlds, and you thought that Calvin was gonna win, or that Paul was gonna win, or that whoever was gonna win, and then you're like, oh no, it's James on the last hole with the incredible shot. He's been hanging around all week, and I just love that because we'll talk to him about this. There's just not very many guys on tour right now that have multiple major championships to their name, and he is one of them. And we can get into this in another time, but is he a Hall of Famer? Maybe, perhaps future Hall of Famer James Conrad joins us next. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And you know what? They make more than just disc golf bags. Check out their new Fly Pack. You can find it on the website, pounddiscgolf.com. It is the maximum carry-on size travel pack that you've been looking for. Backpack straps, or you can take those off and convert it into a duffel. It's got room for a laptop, a tablet, your clothes, your stuff, and you know what? Some disc golf discs, because obviously you're going to bring some on vacation. $299.99, and it's just a beautiful bag. You got to check it out. It's available in multiple colorways. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to check out the Fly Pack so that you can travel in style. Joining us now on the Upshot Interview Series is 2021 World Champion James Conrad. James, I know you've talked a lot about Worlds over the past year, almost a year at this point, and you talked to the Wall Street Journal about it, and I'm sure it still sounds pretty good to hear 2021 World Champion.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's something I don't think I'll ever get tired of.
So, tell us a little bit about how you're doing right now. You're on the road. You just mentioned to us before we started recording that you're in Santa Cruz. How's the start of your season been, and the road trip life been so far as you've gone now coast to coast?
Yeah, the season's off to a nice start. It feels like we're kind of really getting into the swing of things. The beginning of the year went by pretty quick, I guess. Yeah, definitely a lot of driving, but it was really nice to have this last weekend off. Trying to drive halfway across the country in just a couple days and having a quick turnaround for the next tournament is probably one of the hardest things that we sometimes have to do on tour. So when they schedule it so that we have that week in between, that really takes a lot of the burden off of the travel life and gives us time to kind of enjoy the long trip. We were able to stop in Colorado for a day or two and then again in Utah, and then again in Tahoe. So we kind of took our time making it out to Santa Cruz and got to see some nice sights and have a good time on the trip.
So when you're making those cross-country road trips, what do you enjoy doing for recreation and in that free time that you have?
Kind of a variety. This year I've been getting kind of addicted to rock climbing, like going to climbing gyms and stuff like that. And out near Boulder, we actually got out on some real boulders. So that was a great time. And then yeah, just going on hikes or just pretty much getting outside if we can to break up just sitting in the car. Don't play too many casual disc golf rounds on the long trips, but we like to just kind of switch it up and see what plans um, kind of make themselves apparent for us, kind of winging it.
It's is this your first time going outdoor rock climbing?
This was like my second time. Right after the Las Vegas tournament, a friend took a few of us out on some rocks at the Red Rocks recreation area out there, and that was my first time getting on some real actual rocks for climbing, and it was so much fun.
Isn't it fun? I think it's very interesting how different it feels than being in the gym, where like when you have to make a big move outside, it's your heart gets going a little bit faster. It's you can't get too into it, James. You might find yourself ending up becoming a rock climber. You're already all geared up for it.
Yeah, it's definitely a whole different thing outside. Like in a gym, that they're like, all right, this is the hold. This is kind of where you grab. And outdoors, it's a little bit more of a puzzle. You just kind of, it's not like, okay, this is the one spot you can grab. It's just kind of like, all right, where can you make this work, or how can you figure out how to get up that? And I really enjoy the puzzle of it too. It's fun.
How has your life changed, if at all, since you won Worlds?
Ooh, it honestly doesn't feel like it's changed too much. It's still doing the same kind of stuff, and it's just like an accomplishment. It's something that yeah, like on the day to day, it hasn't really felt like it changed much at all. But I think part of what's changed is that it feels like I'm I guess a few more people are asking for my attention, things like that, whether that's on the course, like fans, or just interviews and stuff like this. But I think that's kind of a byproduct just of the sport growing as much as it is of me winning the world. So overall, not a huge difference, but yeah.
After you won Worlds, did you go through a contract renegotiation process or in this off season that kind of met the increase in your profile as well, thanks to the nature in which you won Worlds?
Last year was my first year of a 2-year contract, so that's something that will be happening this coming off season. Probably be starting earlier than the off season, but yeah, I think that should be a good one.
Are you thinking, at least at the moment, that you're planning to re-sign with MVP?
Yeah, I would like to re-sign with MVP. I've been super happy with the relationship we have with him, and yeah, it just feels like a really good fit. So if everything works out, then I expect to re-sign.
Cool. So you're a fascinating disc golf player in the sense that you have multiple major titles, and you have surpassed other players who may be considered week in, week out a better player than you. And I'm curious how you think about that. Is there something particular about majors that brings out the best in your game? Do you feel like you should be considered at the level of the players who are, talked about in the Macbeth Wysocki tier? Because there's not very many active players that have multiple major titles to their name.
Yeah, I think it puts me in a interesting position. I don't think my resume, if you will, is strong enough to be quite in line with Macbeth or Wysocki, or the other like multiple major winners that are still on tour. But just because it's just the sheer amount of wins on tour. I've have somewhere around 5 like tour wins, if you will, and those guys have 20, 30, maybe 50 or whatever. So that's just like a whole nother level. But yeah, I think I'm right in the mix for like that one step down. A couple guys on tour, like I guess Calvin would be one, and maybe Chris. They're I'd say consistently finishing just a little higher than I am, but I think all of us and like Kevin Jones and a few other guys that are considered right up near the top are. I think any of us could win on any weekend, but we're not doing it every weekend like Paul and Rick sometimes seem to. So not quite the same tier, but yeah, I think as far as majors go, I think I've been able to really just buckle down and focus, and things have been able to click for me at the right times to pick up a couple really big wins, and that's a cool feeling.
Speaking of majors, what did you think? What was your reaction to the Champions Cup? Do you feel like it was timed well? Do you like where the course? Just your overall impressions of how Champions Cup was in its inaugural year.
I thought it was really cool. It was it was a little weird that it was a new event, and then they're like, okay, this is a major, so it's the same as Worlds or whatever. It in a sense, it didn't feel quite like a major. It just doesn't have the history or the the reputation, like the past winners. It doesn't have any of that kind of stuff going for it, so it didn't feel quite as much like a major as say the United States Championships or the Worlds. But as far as how the event went and the course and everything, I loved it. I think Jackson's an awesome championship level course, and a really fun venue to be competing at, and I'd be happy to continue seeing it there.
So you talked to the Wall Street Journal about the holy shot and all of the pomp and circumstance around it. It's kind of cool to see disc golf getting major newspaper mentions. I mean, it's been a couple times now for disc golf in the Wall Street Journal. When you got reached out to by the reporter, were you surprised by that? And like, what was that experience of talking to them and going through that whole conversation like?
I was surprised. I think they had spoken with MVP quite a bit, and then so MVP passed that along to me and said, "Hey, these guys were hoping to ask you a few questions." And then, yeah, I was happy to oblige. Happy to take some time to talk to them. I wasn't really sure what the scope of their article was going to be, or what the focus was, or anything like that. So I just kind of, just had a conversation on the phone with the lady that I've forgotten her name, but the lady that was doing the story, or at least asking the questions, and she seemed pretty thorough. I probably spoke for at least an hour or so to her, asking lots of questions, some on background, a lot focusing on Worlds and on my shot, and then yeah, she was pretty easy to talk to, and seemed like the interview went well. And then obviously she pared that down to what was relevant for the article, and I think she did a good job.
I want to ask you about a quote from the article, and just hear your thoughts about it now that it's been a couple months. You said, "The remainder of the season wasn't able to match what I did at the Worlds, but I'm not sure I'll ever be able to match that. It's a weird thought that maybe the coolest thing I'll ever do, I've already done." Does that still ring true to you? Or do you think like, I could do something cooler than this in disc golf maybe someday?
I think that one would be hard to top, just the situation, and then for it to play out as it did. I don't think I've peaked yet. I think I can still continue to improve, and I think that I can do a lot more cool things out on the course and off the course. But as far as like an individual throw or, one moment, I think that one might be hard to top.
I know after the shot, there was, I think it was a Jomez video that showed you still had that envy in your bag and you were still throwing it, much to the dismay, I think, of many fans. Is it still in the bag, or where is that envy now if it's not?
I've not been throwing it at all this season. I have it at my parents' house back in Virginia right now, kind of for safekeeping. But uh, yeah, I wasn't ready to take it out of the bag, immediately after. It was kind of one of my staples in my bag last year, and over the winter I was able to start working some new putters into that super flippy spot.
I kind of want to, I know you've talked about this a bunch, but like we talked to you immediately following the tournament. Josh talked to you on the course for like 5 minutes. And I remember we sat down and we did a live podcast and we had people calling in and, like, I don't know, we probably took 15, 20 calls from people who were like, it's like 3 a.m. in Europe and I'm screaming and my wife woke up and my kids woke up and it was a crazy moment in sports, period, and certainly the craziest moment I've ever been a part of in disc golf. I was standing right behind the basket, James, like straight back behind the green, and like to take it in for that moment, I wish I'd had like a camera out. Not that there weren't plenty of cameras already there to see it, but just like the insane moment that was. You get the John Boy treatment. The whole thing was just unbelievable. Do you like relive it on a regular basis, or are you like tired of thinking and talking about it at this point?
I'd say I wouldn't say I'm tired of it. It's just awesome. It's fun to think about, and it's really special when people share their little story, like you were saying, like, that they're screaming in their garage and their family members like, is everything okay? And those little stories that people share with me, that's always always super fun. And yeah, I don't think it's something I'll ever get tired of. I wouldn't say I completely relive the moment too often, though. Yeah, sometimes I do, though, and it's such good feelings.
One of the primary topics in the Wall Street Journal article was supply chain issues, the difficulty of getting discs, the pinch of COVID. And, after you hit the shot, MVP discs just started flying off the shelf in a way that I'm sure nobody expected prior to Worlds. So given that kind of combination of two factors, did you as a professional have a hard time getting plastics at any point that you wanted for your bag?
That was never really an issue for me last year, or has it been at all. When I first signed with MVP, they hooked me up with a ton of discs, like a pretty big variety of, so I could get an idea what I wanted, and just that amount that they gave me at the beginning of the season last year was pretty much plenty for me all year. I was never in a situation too much where I was like, this is what I need for my bag, and I don't have it. I ran into that a tiny bit at the beginning of last season when I kind of got a last minute invite to the All-Star event out in Arizona. And my van was actually currently getting the new wrap, so I literally only had like my disc golf bag without any backups. And going to Fountain Hills, it's pretty easy to lose discs. So I reached out to the MVP fan page, and some people hooked me up with some backups, pretty much right on the spot. So that was super cool. The MVP fans are pretty diehard, and they definitely have our backs, which is awesome. And then, but after that, yeah, I was pretty set. I'd say that the supply chain does make it a little hard for players that are trying to, sell discs at fly marts and stuff like that. It can be harder to get what you're wanting, or get custom stamp orders in on time. So that kind of stuff could be more difficult, but that's not really something that I put a lot of effort into. So it didn't affect me personally too much.
How has your total sponsorship compensation changed since joining MVP as compared to years past for you?
It's been, yeah, this past year was definitely my best year, best year yet as far as compensation. It was super cool to me that MVP did a lot of their releases on a pre-order basis, so it wasn't like, okay, we made these 20,000 discs, and they didn't bottleneck me or my sales in that way at all, which was awesome. They kind of made it unlimited, however many envies and nomads and such that people wanted to buy, they let them buy them. So I thought that was really cool of MVP, and that definitely made a big difference in terms of my sales and the royalties that I was able to receive off of them.
Maybe this kind of is already answered by your last answer, but what would you say are some of the biggest changes in moving from a large disc manufacturer sponsor to what is a relatively smaller one?
Yeah, I guess to me the biggest change was that I felt like I feel a little bit more like a priority to MVP than I ever did to Innova. They had a big team with a lot of superstars on the team, so I felt like everyone was just kind of like one of the team, and it wasn't it wasn't as like individual of a situation or as much of a like special treatment kind of feeling that I get from MVP.
So you mentioned then being a priority to MVP. Part of that prioritization definitely, I think, comes with getting to design your own discs. You have the Nomad and the recently released Terra. What was the design process like? I've always wondered how did that process? I mean, you from start to finish go in designing and building your own disc, and why how did we get to the Nomad and the Terra?
I'm obviously not an engineer, so my involvement is like somewhat limited, but it's been a cool process. I've got to sit down with Chad Richardson and kind of just go over everything that I'm looking for as far as the flight of the disc, and a large portion of it for me has been kind of like how it's going to actually fit in my hand and what kind of feel I'm looking for. And then he's been able to, work his magic, make a mold that fits just how I'm hoping for in my hand, and then getting the flight pretty much just what I've been hoping for on both of them so far. I feel like the putter, the Nomad, it was especially, the hand feel. It's everyone's grip is kind of unique, especially for like putting grips, I feel, and different hand shapes. So that was the majority of it. And then that I already really enjoyed their Electron Soft blend as far as the base plastic for a putter goes, and so that was an easy fit. And then coming to the Terra, we were looking for something not too different from the Volt. To be honest, I've been throwing the Volt and I do like it, but at times it was, if I'd start a disc on a little bit of turn, I felt like the Volt would really ride to the right for me for quite a while, and that wasn't what I was always looking for out of it. I was looking for something I could kind of hammer on and just on a little bit of Anheuser and push super straight for me, and they were able to nail that with the Terra. It's the little bit of dome fits super well in my hand too, and just a super comfortable backhand grip, and it's been cool to just kind of give him just what I'm looking for, and to see how he can turn that into a reality is pretty amazing.
And for MVP plastic, what is it that you think is superior about MVP plastic? What do you enjoy about MVP discs? They obviously have the very unique overmold as relative to other discs, but what is it for you that you really enjoy about the new discs that you have just in your bag?
I've been liking a lot about them. The gyro technology is cool. I feel like I get super true flights out of them, and I feel like they're super precise with their molding. I think a lot of their injection molding machines are quite new, so they don't have much variance in them. It feels like I can get the same mold from 2 years ago versus this year, and finding very similar feel and results out of the discs. So I think consistency is pretty much the biggest thing you can ask for from a manufacturer. If you get a disc, you want to know what you're actually getting, not like, oh, I need this disc from this year, from this run, to try to find one you like. And I found a lot of consistency through their years, so that's been, I'd say, the biggest boon.
How would you grade your season so far? You've only missed the top 15 once. You got a couple top 10s in there, fourth place finish. How would you assess this year so far?
Yeah, this season so far has felt pretty solid to me, but not amazing. It's been somewhat slow and steady. I I don't think I've had very many rounds at all that I've been really disappointed in, but I also haven't had that many rounds that I've been super stoked on either. Um, I've I've made some video coverage almost every tournament this year, so that's always a good sign for how your year's going. But then I haven't really had any hot rounds. Nothing, at least not too many, maybe once. But yeah, I think to be in contention for wins, you have to have that consistency. You have to keep, your off rounds have to still be right around your rating or so, and then um, to really be in contention to win, though, you have to be dropping those 1070s, 1080s, 1090s, maybe even, at least once every week or so to have a chance at winning. So if I can get a few more of those in the mix and keep that consistency up, I think I'll be right near the top more often.
Even as it stands, you sit 6th place overall in the Disc Golf Pro Tour rankings, which is good for a bye to semifinals for the Pro Tour Championship. We are coming up on the final Elite Series, the OTB Open, to qualify for the Match Play Championships, another, one of those special events. How important are those events to you in the season, both the Match Play and the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships? And if they are so important, is it just the money or is there something else?
Yeah, those things are important to me. The chance to win a nice purse is always cool, but it's also, a chance at an accomplishment. A chance to win a big event. It would be awesome to win the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships. That would be, I feel like that's one of the coolest tournaments to win of the year. It's not quite online with US or Worlds or anything like that, but it's a unique tournament and one that, one that would really cap off a season super super well. And then the Match Play tournament is I just had fun with it last year. It's cool to go out there and do quick little matches. Either you win and move on, or you lose and you're out. So it's a fun opportunity and unique kind of tournament, which is always cool.
You mentioned a little earlier about the driving distances and the road tripping that a lot of you all are doing. How do you feel about the scheduling of disc golf right now during the season? Do you want to see things be different at all, or do you think it's mostly in a pretty good spot?
I think it's mostly in a pretty good spot. I think this is one of our better schedules yet this year. I think if I was to change it at all, I would like to see us not ever have 2 Elite Series events on back-to-back weeks. I think that 1 week in between at least would be ideal. And whether that meant there was a few more Silver Series, so you'd have the option then of playing every week if you wanted to hit all the Silver Series. But if you wanted to only hit the Elite Series, if never having to play 2 weeks in a row, I think would be sweet. I think it would give us a better chance to take our time with the travel and to really prepare for these courses. Sometimes we play 2 courses and then we're expected to drive on Monday and then practice 2 courses in 2 or 3 days and then start competing again on Thursday. And that just seems like a little too quick of a turnaround for us to really have our best chance at playing well.
It seems that you choose not to play a lot of Silver Series events. What's the rationale behind that?
Kind of what I was just speaking on, that it makes the schedule feel super jam-packed and makes it harder to really stay focused on the tournaments that you are playing when you're playing every single weekend. I am playing this Silver Series this weekend in Santa Cruz, and I'm playing again at the Beaver State. And both those are just courses that I really love playing, and so they're kind of no-brainers for me to play. But for some of the other ones, they weren't a priority on my schedule, and I didn't want to kind of get burned out early in the season, playing every week for like 6 weeks in a row. It already felt a little busy between the Champions Cup, into Jonesboro, into DDO, 3 Elite Series events in 3 weeks. So I felt like that was plenty of tournaments for that stretch. I didn't need to play the Music City or the Tallahassee.
So as we get out to the West Coast, you're playing Masters Cup this weekend. This is the first year we've had the PDGA National Tour merged into the Pro Tour, and we have these two tentpole National Tour events that are Silver Series this year. Do you like the decision for these to be Silver Series? Do you think these should make their way back onto the Elite Series? Because, I mean, these are pretty classic courses and tournaments that have really been, stood the test of time.
I love playing at De La, and I love playing at Milo. So in that sense, I do think they should be on the Elite Series. But then I feel like I don't think that just because something was traditionally on tour means that it should continue to be, not necessarily. I think that our tour is probably moving mostly away from public courses, courses on public property, towards private land. Just, I feel like allows the tournament certain luxuries that public courses don't. And so yeah, I'm kind of torn. I think they're awesome places to play disc golf, but I think the Silver Series could be the right place for them. I think that Milo could definitely be back on the Elite Series especially if it was a pro only weekend. I know I'm not sure the format of this tournament, but in years past, it's been kind of weird having it be one of the only events where we play 2 rounds in a day, and then having, sharing the courses with like a amateur A-tier event. Just sometimes it's felt not quite as professional as some of the other events we've played, but it's such an amazing place to play disc golf that I'd like to see it back on the Elite Series.
My last question for you then, if there was one course that you would like to see featured on the Disc Golf Pro Tour next year, which course would that be?
I'm super excited for Lake Marshall to make it's going to be a Silver Series, I guess, which is technically going to be part of next year's season this November. I'm not sure if I'll be able to play it this winter, but that's an awesome property, and I'm excited for it to get some visibility at the Silver Series.
In some ways, James, you are one of the faces of this explosion in disc golf over the past couple of seasons. How has that experience been for you? Do you enjoy kind of like being in the spotlight and being the focus of, big newspaper articles and all this kind of stuff?
It's unique. I'm not one of the more outgoing people that I know, but I think everyone likes having attention. It's a good feeling to be kind of validated, and for people to be fans is super special, and it's a nice feeling. It's definitely a little odd to me sometimes, like, wow, what? Yeah, hard to explain, but like, wow, the Wall Street Journal really has my photo in it or something. It's just unique, but it's a fun feeling.
What's going to drive disc golf's next phase of growth, in your opinion?
I don't think I have a for sure answer there. I think that we're on a good path to continue growing, and I'm not sure that there's one factor that will really separate itself in making that difference.
That's a fair answer, and you're probably right. I think it's going to be multifaceted. James, we really appreciate you giving us some time. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Josh.
Good luck at Masters Cup, and we'll see you out there soon.
Yep. See you guys.